You go to Italy and it's very different. These customs that people love, like the fact that there's always a little bit of food throughout the day, and we just talk about lunch at breakfast and we talk about dinner at lunch. It's just how we are. Italians are very well known for culture of, music, the opera, the arts, and food.
Absolutely. Everybody's like, oh, you must be exhausted. Do you really want to cook? And I'm like, yeah, it's cathartic. It's therapy for me. It's also part of my culture. It makes me feel good. I feel good eating it. I feel good serving it. I don't feel good cleaning it up. But other than that, I love the whole process.
Yeah, nobody likes dishes, that's for sure.
Coffee Talk.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee Talk with Tara Cannistraci. I am joined today by a beautiful fellow paisana. First of all, so excited to have this person, not just here in my home and cooking, which is the most important thing. A guest should always come over your house to cook. How rude of me. I had nothing in this house. She even brought the food with her. Joining me now is Anna Francese Gass.
Yeah, perfection.
Okay.
I threw a lot of vowels at you.
It's okay. Francese was easier for me to say than Gass because I was like, that's not Italian. I don't know. And we'll get into that. I actually met you on social media.
Yeah, I just thought you were really funny.
Like all good situationships, relationships, friendships, you meet online. And I loved your content. I loved your content because it's so appealing, from your shots to how adorable and pretty you are, which it helps. It's just being honest. And I loved your recipes. And then you sent me your book and I was like, oh, and I love to cook. Like I love to cook. It's part of my culture. But I was like, oh, I can never make these things. And then I read the book and you break it down so beautifully.
Oh, thank you.
So let's just get to the start. First of all, this is your second book, Italian Snacking.
Correct. Yep.
Tell us, though, a little bit about your background, because when we spoke on the phone today, we made sfincione, which is a Sicilian pizza. We did Sicily for me. You're Calabrian. Yes. But tell us a little bit about your background, where you came from.
Yeah. So I was born in Calabria.
You were born there?
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting story. So my parents, it's not really common how my parents came together. So my dad is Italian American. His grandparents came over. So on my dad's side, in a way, I'm third gen because
wow.
Yeah,
I love this.
And didn't speak Italian in his home, very traditional Italian American upbringing where, you don't even really want the kids to speak Italian. We're American now type of mentality, right? So, but my dad decided he loved being Italian. My dad is like the truest Italophile, you would ever find. I think that's why I'm so proud of being Italian, is because my dad. So when he went to college, he studied Italian. And then for graduate school, he decided to go to University of Rome. So when he went to Rome, his parents were like, well, you're in Rome. You should go down to Calabria and see our family. So he goes down. And then, they did ambasciata, which I think you know what that means.
Yes, explain to the listeners.
So that's when you get set up. And so what happened was his cousin was married to my aunt. And then the next daughter in line was my mother.
And they served her up.
So they said, hey, what do you think of our beautiful, whatever, my beautiful sister? And, they, I guess, fell in love.
Oh.
And they got married. And my dad actually wanted to stay in Italy. But, because he was a professor looking for work, it was difficult. So they decided to come back. But I was born there. So I moved here when I was 1. Okay. So I've always had dual citizenship. I have an Italian passport. It's amazing when I get to Italy.
All the things you want in life.
Which is handed to me. So yeah, but my father grew up in Westerly, Rhode Island, which is very Italian and very much people that had just come over.
I say this all the time when I film my special, which might be at the end of this year. I always said I wanted to do it in the Bronx. And I've been looking for a venue now for 2 years. And I said, if it's not going to happen in the Bronx, it's happening in Rhode Island. Because those audiences...
You should do the United Theater in Westerly.
Let me tell you, the audiences in Rhode Island receive me so well. And I think it's just because they get it. They get every level of my comedy.
Yeah. So Westerly is exactly that. You have a lot of Italian Americans, like third gen, right down to first gen. So we came to Rhode Island. My mom had a ton of friends, people that had come from her town. So all their kids were first gen. So it's interesting because then in college, I went to NYU.
You spoke Italian at home?
Always.
Yeah.
So, but my house was interesting, right? So my father and I spoke to each other in English. My mother spoke to me in Italian. I spoke back to her in Italian. My dad spoke to my mom in Italian. So everyone spoke to my mom in Italian, but then my father, sister, and I spoke to each other in English.
Wow.
It was just because of the way, because my father's native tongue is English,
Right.
not Italian.
Yeah.
But yes, I grew up speaking Italian in my house, and my home, because obviously my mother was from Italy, was very much Italian. So when I moved to New York,
Which is really what makes the heart of the home is who the mother is.
100%.
It's just what it is.
Yeah. I mean, if your mom is Jewish and your dad's Italian,
Yeah.
you're going to feel more Jewish.
Yep.
It's just kind of how it works. So, but when I moved to New York and met my husband, he would say things to me like, oh, like, do you eat gabagool? And I'm like, what's gabagool?
Right.
Like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Because you were not Italian American.
Yeah, I had no idea what he was talking. Or like his mother would be like, "Oh, let's order some calamar and some ricotta," and I'm like, "What are we ordering?" And like it was a whole different thing. And I don't say this because I feel like one is superior to the other. I really don't.
No, I know.
I
You just really had no idea what they were talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate Italian American culture, but I learned about it later in life because I grew up in this like very Italian home.
Yes.
And I think even when Italian Americans go to Italy, they're kind of like a little jarred because they're like, wow, this is different than what I grew up with in New York or New
100%,
Jersey or
yeah.
wherever.
That's always been the biggest debate online, along with sauce and gravy, which I never touch with a 10-foot pole because I'm like, I actually have brain cells and I don't want to talk about this. But I think that how it like kind of developed and changed and how the C's went to G's and all the other things and we cut off vowels and how offended people actually get by it. I got attacked online and I got praised online for the way because I came from a very Italian American household, where that's even the way my grandmother spoke. So
Yeah.
Did your father, I'm just curious because your father was almost second generation here. Did he learn Italian through school or through home?
Through school. I mean, my
Because I
grandparents.
was like,
yeah, my
because he
grandparents
said he
knew-
spoke Italian to your mom, and I was like,
Well, I mean, my dad speaks perfect Italian,
right.
Because,
School Italian.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, I shouldn't even say perfect Italian because I think dialects are very important, and I don't think that they should be set aside. I mean, I think they're very important to the culture. And I also sometimes get attacked online. I do write for the New York Times, and first of all, sometimes it'll be like, "Who's this Gass making this?"
Well,
whatever.
The last name, I'm like, I'm gonna have to address.
Well, my maiden
the
name is
German
there.
last name on the Italian snacking cookbook.
Yeah. Well, I do have 3 children.
Yes.
So there was a point where I decided to add the Gass in. I mean, obviously I am Italian through and through, the way I talk, the way I act. So I don't feel like I have to really like promote my Italianness.
Right,
I think I just
right,
kind of
yeah.
got it. But yeah, it will be funny sometimes. Like, this girl doesn't know what she's talking about. But I love it.
I know.
I love the passion. It
Right.
doesn't offend me.
Right.
You
Me
know,
neither.
I'll put stuff online, especially when it's New York Times, and then people will be like, "Oh, I got my popcorn. I'm waiting for the Italians." And it's like, yeah, come at me. I don't care. Number one, it's for more views.
Yeah. You help. Keyboard Warriors, you just help the video go more viral.
Number two,
yeah.
I'm on the New York Times. You're not.
Well, we're going to throw out shade like that. That's pretty big.
Yeah. And then number three, I'm here for it. Like, I want to hear how you feel. And yeah, maybe you're pugliese and like, that's not how your mother does it.
Right.
It's okay. That's not how my mother does it.
Right.
But I think Italians are just very passionate.
We are very passionate. I just wish we embraced each other a little bit more. I kind of feel, and I said this before on the podcast with Chaz, I kind of feel like we are pitted against each other more than other ethnicities. And maybe it's not. Maybe it's because I only see it in the Italian American or Italian culture. I wish it wasn't that way. I wish we weren't always attacking each other and comparing the way it was done in our homes. Like, embrace that it's a little different, but that it's still beautiful because it's part of Italian culture. And I'll leave it at that. But it is something that does trigger me in a way that, like, I'm not offended that you're mad. I'm not offended what you're saying to me. I'm upset that we can't agree to disagree.
Yeah.
When we both come from Italian descent.
Or just be excited. Like, for me, it's like, I mean, obviously writing for the Times is a very big career highlight for me. But more importantly, it's the fact that like these Italian recipes are getting celebrated in the world's biggest paper because I'm so proud to be Italian. You know, I feel like it oozes from my pores and the best way. And I think there's a place for all of it.
Yeah.
I don't think like one has to be the right way and the other's the wrong way.
Agreed. That's it. That's the new motto. Get on board, people. Okay, so now I want to jump into culinary school really quickly because, you know, you see so many influencers online, and this is true. I invited you into my home and did not even know 90% of what you told
I
me
could be crazy
while you were in my kitchen. Well, crazy I could accept because I'm a little crazy. But this is like not a book. This is not just like a labor of love for like you're passionate about it. This is like career, and you have so much going on, so much to be celebrated for. So this is the second book.
Correct.
The first book was
Heirloom Kitchen, and it was celebrating immigrant women. I started with my mom, and then I, cooked with all these women. And then for my second book, I really just wanted to lean into Italian customs because, again, I do think it's very interesting when Americans go, not just Italian Americans, all Americans go to Italy because they have a mindset of what Italian people are. And then you go to Italy and it's very different, and these customs that people love, like the fact that there's always a little bit of food throughout the day. And we just talk about lunch at breakfast and we talk about dinner at lunch. It's just how we are. I think Italians are very well known for culture of, music, the opera, the arts, and food.
Right,
I think
absolutely.
it's right up there. So I wanted to really dive into that. And, I did go to the French Culinary Institute in New York City when that was to get training because I knew I wanted to be in food media. This was, before.
And you're an NYU graduate
I
before
went to
that.
NYU undergrad, yes. But this was before like the whole social media thing.
Beauty and brains, people. She's got beauty and brains. Okay.
Thank you. But yeah, so my whole purpose is I really want people to love it being all things Italian as much as I do, which is not a hard sell. And I also want people to get into the kitchen. I think you're doing yourself such a disservice if you're just eating out every night. Cooking is actually not that hard. Yes, I mean, you're not going to start with a 5-course meal.
Right.
But start with a grilled cheese. That's what I taught all my kids to make first.
It's so true. And it's like, I know, I even said to you, oh, I'm so glad you're making something in my home because I love to cook, but I've been on the road for 2.5 months. And it was like, I am inviting a chef to my house and I maybe have a little bit of grated cheese left and a few eggs. Like there is not even a meal that could be made with the stuff that's in my refrigerator. And luckily I didn't need anything because she brought all the ingredients for Sfincione here. But so I loved the concept of the first book because I loved the idea of the grandmothers and the generation and it being ancestral because I think Italians are really good at acknowledging and respecting where we come from, even if it was different cultures that you had in the first book. That's so Italian of you to do that. And now you are taking this all to the next level. There'll be a third book in.
I don't know. I'm working on a concept right now. Again, it'll still be about Italy.
And you traveled for this book.
I did because, again, I did travel to Italy a lot as a kid. My mother's whole family is still there. But, it was like Rome, Florence, and South. So I was like, there's a whole other half of this country that I don't really know and I want to experience it. So I started I went tip to toe. I really went through.
Where'd you start? How long were you away?
Well, it was more than one trip.
Well, okay.
But like, for example, like Val d'Aosta, like everyone had a German accent. Like they were speaking Italian with a German accent. It floored me. And like the fact that
your husband fit right in.
Yeah, he's half Sicilian and half German. But yeah, I mean, he's like way down and way up. But no, and the food is very Swiss, very Germanic. Like that's what they're eating up there. And then it was funny because like my kids were like, "Oh, this is not what I'm used to."
I was gonna say, is it like a little bit of culture shock, even though you're in Italy?
Yeah, I mean, like it's in the book. They eat fonduta, which is a melted cheese. Like it's fondue.
Right.
They dip like Italian things in it, but it's still fondue. But it was funny one night. Like I said to the concierge, I was like, my kids just want a really good simple meal. They're like, oh, go to this pizzeria. So we go to this pizzeria and it was so good. And so of course I'm like talking to the waitress, whatever. And I'm like, why is the pizza here so good? She's like, because the chef's from Naples. And I was like, there you go.
There you go. I mean, Listen, it is what it is, right? Stereotypes are stereotypes because they're true.
No, but even Northern Italians, like whenever they'd be like, oh, what are you? And I'm like, oh, I'm Calabrese. Like, oh, you guys have the best food. Like they don't even try. They know.
So if there's not a competition, Southern Italy has better
every
food.
Northern Italian would be like, if you want good food in Italy, you got to go to the South.
And listen, even in Northern Italy, a question I had asked a bakery once was like, they don't put enough salt in the bread, and they say it's really just like something for palate cleanser for other things. Whereas like bread to me could be a meal.
Yeah,
bread and pasta I could eat.
Yeah.
All day, every day.
But Northern Italy, they eat a lot of rice products because that's what grows up there.
Right.
And then us in the South, I mean, my grandparents grew wheat. They mill their own flour.
I noticed in Sicily there were like infusions of so many different things you think about it, and it's like Sicily was invaded so many different times, and there are things that just stuck, like things that you wouldn't even think would be in the food or traces of things even if it wasn't the highlight, it was like it's one of the ingredients, and you're
Of course.
yeah,
like saffron,
Yeah,
or even like raisins, like all kinds of things.
I was going to say the raisins, which I'm not a fan of, but they were there. Yeah,
it's really, I mean, there is evidence that even cannolis was taught to the nuns by Muslims. Like they learned that. So, and that's, not to go all like peace on earth, but
no.
I really feel like, especially between my first book of learning all these women from different countries and then obviously traveling through Italy, like borders are so arbitrary. Like we're all really eating different versions of the same thing. And I always just say people love their mother and they love their family, and that is universal.
Right.
So if we have that.
Yeah, I know. A lot of time I posted where was pizza invented, and people like the Greeks, the Chinese, and it's like, well, but we made a pizza. Like, yes, there was a form of that bread in other places, in other countries, but yes, it was not pizza. We made a pizza. Same with the spaghetti and the lome. It's like, it becomes like these battles online, but again,
you just like poking the bear.
I subscribe to you. Yeah, I subscribe to what you say. We're just cherished. We just come from where we come from, and that's it. But you are taking it to the next level. So it's book.
And I do have a TV show coming out.
What? Had no clue. Invited her to my home. Like, let me get this sweet girl to my house. TV show. Tell us.
I know. I guess I should have a T-shirt made. No. So I got very, very lucky when Heirloom Kitchen came out. My agent got my book to Rachael Ray, and I got invited on the show, and they were like, Rachael was really taken with your book. Like she read it cover to cover. So we did this segment, and then afterwards they were like, Rachael wants to talk to you. So I'm like shaking in my boots because, as a culinary person, and any culinary person will tell you, like Rachael taught us how to cook, like 30 minutes meals. I just graduated from college.
EBOO.
Yeah, I couldn't really cook. My mother had always done all the cooking. So she helped teach me how to cook. And so meeting her was phenomenal. And what's so great about Rachael, something that you and I discussed, is she's all about elevating others. Like she's just so comfortable with herself and what she's done that now she's like, I'm passing the torch, which is very refreshing.
Especially
nice.
From a woman. Let's face it, in the world we live in, that's not always the case.
She's been a mentor to me. And then shortly after, we talk about divine timing. She ends her run, her 17-year run of her TV show, and she opens a production company. And she called me and she's like, I want to give you a show. I want what you're doing. You're the real deal. Like
you are.
Well, I mean, thank you.
That
I don't
comes
know.
through. Seriously, that comes through just from your reels. That's why I was like, I love how she's doing it. I love the look of them. I love how quick they are.
Yeah. I mean, again, so the show's going to be called Instant Italian. And it's really just, I want everyone to walk away from every episode saying, I can do that. Because when people DM me and they're like, I can do that, or I made that, I never knew. Like, it's the biggest compliment to me because, again, like that's a meal that you didn't order out or didn't have preservatives or didn't make you feel bad. Like, and it's also for me, I think when you make something really good, it's a sense of accomplishment.
It is. It honestly, it does. Like everybody's like, oh, you must be exhausted. Do you really want to cook? And I'm like, yeah, it's cathartic. It feels good it's therapy for me in a way. It's also part of my culture. It makes me feel good. I feel good eating it. I feel good serving it. I don't feel good cleaning it up. But other than that, I love the whole process.
Yeah, nobody likes dishes, that's for sure.
But I'm wishing you all the success with this.
Thank you.
I love the book. I'm going to eat sfincione right now. It's cooling off this whole time. I had to smell this pizza going on in my house right now and just pretend like I was interested in this conversation. No, I'm kidding. I was totally interested in this conversation.
Her stomach's growling. I can hear it.
I actually just growled. Did you hear it? It just growled. I want you to tell everybody where they can find you online because I love your Instagram account.
Oh, thank you. So it's at Anna F. Gass. And then you know where to find books, your local bookstore, Amazon, all that stuff. And then the show will be airing on A&E. So it's be on regular cable. And then it'll stream on Hulu Plus.
So excited for this.
Yeah, I'm gonna be on cable.
This is big time. I got a big. This
Your grandmother
couch,
will watch it.
This couch is becoming big time right now. Anna, it was such a pleasure having
Thank
you
you so
come
much
to my
for having
house and cook for me and be
Well,
kind
you always
enough.
make me laugh, so it was a fair treat.
Fair treat. I will tell jokes the whole time after I swallow the pizza. Okay. Thank you so much, babe.
Thank you.
All right, guys, please check out Anna F. Gass. I said it right. Have a great day, everybody. Hope you guys learned something and have a great day.
Coffee Talk.